What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to a mixed martial artist, a boxer, and getting it done in the BKFC Squared Circle. Just what, Friday night? He is
Oh
the
yeah,
one and only.
Saturday night.
Saturday. He is the Uprising, Kendrick Latchman. Kendrick, what's going on, my man?
Nothing much, man. I'm just enjoying the victory. I didn't take any damage at all during the fight, so I'm just, besides my hands being a little bit swollen, but that's it. Just let the swelling go down before I go back to training.
My goodness. So I mean, the, obviously the win on Saturday is a small kind of microcosm of your career thus far. But I mean, it was a pretty big win. You stepped into the squared circle. I mean, what was that experience like at BKFC?
Oh man, this the experience, the the fight itself, it just felt like another fight to me. Honestly, um, I I've done a lot of street fighting growing up, so I didn't. I just felt at home, doing it, and like now I know what I'm doing, so I felt comfortable doing it.
Now, I'm here in California, and to a large extent, combat sports is almost on the back burner. Because the California State Athletic Commission right now, I mean, in terms of the fee for just COVID testing, I mean, I'm hearing to the tune of like $40,000. That's the number that's been floated around, and that's on top of everything else, on top of the regular commission fees, on top of the, getting the venue, the insurance for the fighters, paying the fighters. Like it's 40,000. So you could essentially, as a promoter, be out 100 G's to have fights with no fans, right? So, I mean, what obviously BKFC has figured out a way to do it, especially working with the commission in Salina, Kansas, So, what was the experience like? I mean, talk us through, getting there and, the precautions that you guys had to take.
Um, they like working with the promotion. They're a little off on time. Like with weigh-ins and stuff. They're a little late with a couple of things. Their scheduling was not on point. But that's the fight game. If you ever like been in any fights, it's always like that. But it it didn't feel any different because we had a crowd, and I fought in bigger crowds than that before. But it kind of just felt like it was, again, it felt like it was my first fight ever because I think it was the same amount of people in the crowd as it was for my very first amateur fight, and that was the very first fight, and it was the same. I was the very first fight that night, and it
Wow.
kind of felt the same. Besides, my nerves were, they're a lot better. Not as nervous as I was when I started.
Now, was there COVID testing being done?
Oh yeah, there was. We had to do it before you weighed in, which sucked. Cause like I was I was nervous about. I wasn't like nervous about making weight because I always make weight. I was more nervous about taking the COVID test before weight because I'm like I want to eat and drink before I have something shoved up my nose. I'm like, let me at least like rehydrate first. But no, like they did it before weigh-ins. It wasn't too bad, but it wasn't fun.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, having seen, kind of the behind the scenes of UFC's Fight Island and different promotions, and, having friends fought on literally all of the cards, like Bellator, got some friends at Bellator, got some friends
Mm.
at LFA, got some friends in the UFC, and bare knuckle, right? The process is a little bit unnerving. I mean, literally, that's something you would see out of the old school William Shatner Star Trek. Like an
Yeah.
alien shoving something down your damn nose. Kind of taking samples of your brain or whatever the hell. Now, I mean, I might have embellished that
Yeah.
last part, but even still, kind of the same kind of, I guess, negotiations for battle.
Yeah. it wasn't too bad though. Because I had to get a flu test way before my last fight in December, and like it felt like they touched my brain. So I was like, I didn't want to go through that again. So I was like, I don't want to do that again. It sucks. But it wasn't too bad.
Yeah,
I think they changed the method and the way they did it. They didn't go as far up your nose. So yeah, it wasn't too bad.
I mean, I'm just glad that they figured out a way to do it, via your nose because, I mean, newborn babies, the way that they get the temperature checked, that's a different story for another day. It's not the greatest of instances. So I'm glad it's just the nose rather than other holes, right?
Yeah.
There you go. And
I don't know.
yeah, yeah, I mean, Jesse Velasquez, he
I
says, you
probably would
already
have.
He says you're already hungry, dehydrated, annoyed, and they add something more annoying to it. And plus, if you're positive, it was all for nothing. But I mean, safety first. Safety first. Nobody wants to catch the Rona. I mean, have had people that are not in the best health, people in the best health that I personally know that have got it and been fine. And it's the same kind of deals, right? The same demographic, physically fit and then not so physically fit
Yeah.
and caught it and then ended up passing away or having long term effects of it. So, I mean, it is serious, right? But it's just like, again, for a fighter, there's
Yep.
already so many. I mean, the biggest part is the of the fight itself. A lot of times is the weigh-ins, right? And if that isn't, kind of what is it, anxiety inducing
Oh yeah.
already, then you just add one thing to it,
Hmm.
and it's just like, oh, sucks.
Yeah. I think that's what I was more anxious about. Was getting a test before weigh-ins because I'm like, fuck, I'm just I don't want to be right now. Like, already you don't want like at weigh-ins they do all their interviews before you weigh and stuff, and you already don't want to do that. You're like, the only thing you're thinking about is food and water. It's like you don't want to talk to anyone. Don't want to sign nothing, take pictures. I'm like, I just want to eat. Just step on the scale, eat, drink, and then like, all right, then I'm ready for everything else. But yeah, that added more anxiety to it.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine. But I mean, we'll get to the fight in just a bit. But I want to know because you are someone who has competed in, I mean, a litany of combat sports. You've done boxing, you've done MMA, and then now BKFC. But um, actually, like, actually, before I ask that, Jesse Velasquez wants to know what's the difference of the feeling of hitting someone with a glove versus no glove.
Oh man, the difference is, dude, like with the gloves, you can hit as hard as you can, but with the gloves you cannot. And I noticed that the first few seconds of the fight, actually, my first exchange, actually, my first few exchanges that I was hitting them with, I was hitting them hard, and I was like, oh man, if I keep it up at this pace, we were scheduled 5 rounds. So I was like, if I keep it up this pace and he happened to last 5 rounds, I could potentially break my hands. So I'm like, all right, I don't need to hit him as hard because he can feel my hands. So like, my hands are pretty bony. I'm flyweight, so we're gonna have hard hands. Period. So I'm like, all right, I don't need to hit him as hard because he's still gonna feel it. So I took the power out and just, you have to be when you take the gloves off, you have to focus more on precision because you hit an elbow or the forehead, you're gonna feel it. That was my big difference. I noticed precision over power is very heavily the favor when you take the gloves off.
Whew, my goodness. I mean, and what was that first, like, that first punch that connects, right? And it's knuckle on, not so much skull because hitting somebody straight up with their skull, that sucks. But like knuckle on somebody's skin, flesh, bone. Like, what does that feel like?
Man, depends what area hit him in. When I was hitting his face, I had to be careful where at on his face. Like I said, a couple of times I caught him on his forehead, and it didn't feel the best. So I was like, all right, let me aim. You have to aim a little bit lower too. And he was coming in a little weird and awkward. So I was like, all right, I have to aim a little bit lower because he was coming in a lot with his head down, swinging wild. So I was like, all right, I can't like you know just be power and precision like I usually am. I have to just be precision because he was coming in weird. But when I would catch him to the body, it didn't. It felt good. Like the body shots, I felt like I hurt him with the body. And it didn't hurt my hands when I went down to the body with the face. You kind of be careful when you're going to the head because, like I said, you hit the forehead. Some of those guys got hard heads, and it don't feel good on your hands.
Whew, I could only imagine, But again, like you said, in terms of getting into street fights when you were younger, it's kind of something that you were used to a bit anyway. But I think it might have even been a little bit more, I guess, like pinkies up, right? Because now you've got raps, you got professional rappers, you've got bright lights and everything like that. So I mean, you've come a long way from just fighting in the streets.
Oh man, in the streets completely different, man. When I was growing up doing that, is I was fighting other guys and bigger guys too all the time. Like we didn't know how to fight, Like we were tough. We grew up in tough areas, and that's just something we did. But like technically, we didn't know how to throw. We didn't know how to punches quickly. There's more power behind those punches. So when you hit with more power, bone on bone, you'll feel it. You'll feel the difference. Then like you're not being able to hit hard. Like if I was throwing sloppy or wild, it probably would hurt my hands. But like I'm putting technique behind it. I'm hitting harder. It just you feel it more.
No, I can at least from the visual, um, I could see that. I could absolutely see that. Now, Rocky Nelson wants to know what is your after fight weigh-in meal or after fight meal? What is your go to kind of get replenish the body, so to speak?
After a fight,
Yeah, after the fight or after weigh-in, either way, or
yeah,
both.
after a weigh-ins or after a fight.
Both. Let's do both.
All right, after a weigh-ins, my go-to meal is Olive Garden. So what I go, cause like I want to load up on carbs, like a lot of bread, a lot of pasta, and I'll get some chicken, like throw some protein in there. But uh, before a fight, I really don't eat much. I'll eat breakfast and then I'll eat lunch, and my lunch is very light. I'll eat like a half a sandwich or something. And after a fight, like I'm craving sugar, like candy. So I'm like, I'll get a shit ton of candy after fight.
What's the go to candy? Are you more a chocolate guy or confectionery hard candy?
You said what?
Are you more of like a chocolate guy or more like those confectionery like taffy or everlasting gobstoppers? That
I like sour
oh,
candy, man.
dude, I mean Amazon's got those for five, like a whole pound of those sour worms for
Yeah.
I think like $6. Like, and you get that shit delivered to you. I mean, if you want to feel like a fucking fatty, I mean, Amazon's your hookup.
Man, it's like it's crazy because before the fight, you like you're not really craving that because you haven't fought yet. So like it's weird cuz like before I fight, I only want to eat plain and like I want to eat healthy and clean. Uh I don't really get the craving for like junk food until after I fight. It's a weird thing. I'm like, "All right, I know I'm done." So my body knows I'm done. I'm like, "All right, put junk back."
That makes sense. That makes sense. And Jesse Velasquez, who is an IFS champion here, MMA champion here in California, he says, carbs, them breadsticks are fire. LOL. And Rocky Nelson, the
Oh
breadsticks are
man, it hits the
bomb.
spot.
Just say it, right? And it's those the quarantine games, everybody's I think my buddy Rafa Sparza on the Verbal Tap podcast, he there's a shirt that he wears and it's like quarantine weight or corona weight champion. And I think at after all this shit is said and done, a lot of us are going to be contending for that fucking title.
Oh man, it's crazy. I didn't put on any weight during quarantine. My diet, actually, when I was in quarantine, I think my diet was the cleanest. I
Whoa.
ate, I ate pretty healthy, ate pretty clean, lean meats, barely ate any junk food. Everything I ate was clean. I worked out every day, so I was in pretty good shape. Even
Well,
though the
me
gyms were
too. I
closed, I'm like, all right, I gotta. 'Cause I don't want to come out of out of the quarantine and like get back to training and feel like shit. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna make sure I'm in shape and my body feels great. So when the gyms open back up and we're ready to start fighting again, I'm like, all right, I'm good. And that's what I did. I felt good, especially when I got back to training. My weight was good. I kept it at a nice. I would say I wasn't too heavy. I was like at a nice weight where I can drop easy, and it wouldn't be a problem.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And Jesse Velasquez says, disciplined. Uh, I mean, I ate clean too, right? I might have dipped a Dorito in a bit of Clorox bleach and ate that shit. I think it's a different type of eating clean than you were doing, but and I wouldn't advise that to anyone. But I was like, I'm eating clean, and I was like, fuck this shit. So,
I
Kendrick,
mean, like
I mean,
for the most part, I keep my diet clean all year round. For the most part, like I said, I don't walk too heavy from my fight weight. I like to stay like the heaviest I'll get. Like if I'm out of camp is probably 144, 146. But then like when fight camp comes, I stay at 135. The entire camp I'll stay at 135, so I cut 10 pounds. So it's not a hard cut for me because I can let my like the entire camp. I'll let my body adjust to 135 pounds and maybe 10 pounds. I think that helped me cut too, and I feel energized when I do that. And I don't have to cut from 140, 146 to 125. I don't have to do that. That's too much weight.
no, 100%. I mean, there was somebody that said like they knew somebody in their earlier career that like cut to like 65 pounds within a day or two, or like I mean, just fucking weird fucking shit, So I like that, and one championship over in Asia, they've got it right with the hydration test and all of that jazz, where you're fighting at your natural weight, rather than you know like because nobody really fights on weight anyway, right? You weigh in, and then by the time you enter
No.
the I mean, essentially, I mean, you go to Thunder Chunky compared to like what you were before when you weighed in. And weigh-ins, you're pretty much close to death. So most people are like, oh, looking at a picture on Instagram, like, oh, I want to look like that guy. I want to look like that girl, and they're all sunken in like a fucking a plum to a raisin and shit like that.
Like all
And
right, I'll spit some facts, but like I studied the game, man. Like this is like I've known I wanted to be a fighter from when I was a little kid, and I took a route that most people didn't take. So like I had a hard life growing up. So to me, it's like all right, I didn't have a gym I can train at because we couldn't afford it growing up. So I did a lot of studying on my own. Like I studied game a lot, and and I noticed like weight cut too. That's a big factor. A lot of these guys don't know. They want the advantage of the bigger guy, but they actually put themselves at a disadvantage by cutting that much weight. Because a lot of guys, if you're not doing it, you're not hydrating illegally like most of these guys are doing, getting IV fluids. But a lot of guys don't know. A lot of fighters, period, don't know when you cut that much weight, the fluid inside your skull, pretty brain from bouncing off of it, that goes away. Like some of that drains out. The more dehydrated you are, the more weight you cut. And that's why those most of these guys that are cutting that much weight get knocked out easy because that fluid there is not as much when you cut that much weight.
No, 100%, 100%. And I mean, it's a crazy life for the life of a fighter. But you were mentioning that you knew very early on what you wanted to do, right? So, Rocky Nelson asks, what got you into martial arts and wanting to become a fighter?
Oh man, I used to get bullied when I was a kid. We moved a lot, and I was always quiet.
We might have lost Kendrick for just a bit, but we will add him back on. And if you have, hey guys, this is According to Woods, and I am Adam Woods, who does a litany of podcasts and kind of the MMA sphere, the pro wrestling sphere. But I encourage you guys to subscribe to this very channel. So we're back with Kendrick.
sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. But you were talking about,
I think.
you're moving a lot and were bullied.
Hello, sorry.
You might have lost Kendrick. Let's see. Um, Here we go. There he is. He's back.
Can
He might not.
can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm on my phone doing this, and somebody called me.
No worries. It happens.
Yeah,
It
but
happens.
yeah. What got me into fighting? Like I was saying, I was super introverted as a kid. I was quiet and I stayed to myself, and I would get bullied a lot. One day, like I decided, I had enough of getting picked on. I stood up for myself. It beat my bully up, and it felt great. And I was like, at that moment, at a young age, I was like, oh man, this is what I was born to do, is fight, because it felt like I can't explain the feeling, but it felt like something I was made to do. Just like me fighting, like throwing punches, hitting him. Just it just felt like I was supposed to do that. And I always grew up watching like martial arts films, boxing. I loved it. Growing up into it, I was like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna become a fighter. After that day, I stood up to my bully. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be a fighter.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. And I mean, up to that point, you hadn't started training, at all, right? So, I mean, what do you think was
Hmm.
attributed to like you not having the skill that you have now, right? And then defeating your bully. Like, how did that go down?
I've always been very smart growing up, and I always like give the highest praise to my IQ because like I always pay attention to everything. I pay attention to every little detail, and and that I always believe like whatever you do, you gotta be the smartest person around.
That makes sense. Sometimes it's mind over matter. A lot of times it's mind over matter.
Hmm.
Now,
Oh yeah.
in terms of how much time elapsed between you defeating your bully and then you actually entering a gym, um, like how much time in between were there?
You said how much time I was in the gym?
No, how much time in between you beating your bully to
Oh,
when you
okay, yeah.
actually entered the gym?
I think All right. When I stood up for myself, I was 7 or 8 years old. I think it was 7. I actually went. I started going to a gym, like an actual martial arts gym. I started going when I was 17, 16, 17, 17 years old. So about 10 years in between. But I started wrestling before I went to actual martial arts gym. So a lot of people don't know unless they grew up with me. They knew I wrestled. But a lot of fighters don't know I wrestle, which is crazy because that's how you know they don't watch. They don't watch me. Like when they look up my fight videos, they don't know what they're looking at because if they did, they wouldn't think I'm just a striker. They would know that I'm a wrestler.
That makes sense. That makes sense. But that's almost like I almost think in terms of like mainstream sports, right? Like Colin Kaepernick and Jeremy Lin, right? Those are two guys who they came in and nobody really had too much film on them, right? But they came in and they pretty much annihilated the competition. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it was their skill set, as it was nobody knowing what to expect. And you started to see the stats and their numbers drop. Once people,
Oh yeah,
season two, and people kind of knew what they were getting out of them.
yeah.
But that's not you, though. I mean, because you were able to kind of cultivate your wrestling prowess and enter in the sport of MMA.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And it's funny to me to this day because a lot of guys think I'm a strike. Like I, I favor my striking more, like to use it. Now I wouldn't say my striking is better than my grappling, which is I feel like they're equally the same. But I just like to strike, man, because I feel like right now, where the sport is as in MMA and the understanding of the fans is they lean more towards striking than they do grappling. So I want to give the fans and the crowd a show. So I'm gonna strike because I can.
All
I know
right.
I can. And a lot of these guys, and I know a lot of these dudes, they're not about it. Like you hit them up, you touch them up a few times, and they want to wrestle. They're not comfortable getting hit. A lot of these dudes aren't comfortable getting hit. I am,
Well,
but
that
you don't see me getting hit a lot in my fights.
well, that's I mean that's good. I mean Joe Rogan just had on Roy Jones Jr. On his podcast yesterday, and I think he might be one of the I think one out of two boxers ever, or might be the only one ever, where he went a whole round without somebody hitting him. And that just shows what good you know I almost look at defensive almost like an offense, because like even if somebody's punching you, if you bob and weave and all that shit, like that's an as much of an offensive move, because now you basically drained your opponent's gas tank, and I mean you could pretty much sprint to the finish line after that.
This is where I tell some my teammates and the fighter up and coming fighters under me. Offense and defense is the same thing. If you look at them two different things, you're gonna fight either be a defensive and offensive. But offense and defense are the same thing. You can do it at the same time. And I break it down for them, but I don't want to give too much secrets. But I tell them that it's the same thing. It's one and the same thing. But yeah,
No, it is.
another thing is just like fighting is the art of punching and not getting hit. I don't have to prove how tough I like the bare knuckle boxing thing. I see a lot of guys and they're like the same card. Like they're standing there trying just trading. I'm not trying to do that. No, I'm like I know too many retired fighters who have problems speaking. I want my brain to be intact when I retire. But then again, like I said, this is a fight game. Anything can happen. You can get hurt seriously. One fight can ruin end your career. So it's important to be smart when you fight. I don't have to prove that I'm tough. When the time comes when that's all I have to do is I have to be tough in a fight, then I'll do that. But until then, I'm gonna be smart. I always hear guys saying, and even other guys. Like I heard my opponent a lot. You know, Miles. I like Miles a lot. I told you that we're good friends, but he was saying he won't fight at night. To me, I don't want fight at the night. If I hear any other fighter says that, I'm like, well, that's kind of stupid because you want fight at night to me means you're taking damage and the fight is close. I don't ever want a fight to be close, and I don't want to take damage. I want to get performance of the night or knockout of the night.
No, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense, especially so I in not only being a a purveyor of combat sports and MMA and all things that is contested in a ring or a cage, but I'm also a fan of pro wrestling, right? So in pro wrestling, if wrestlers have what you call the bump card, right? There's only so many bumps and falls that you can do before your body says,
Yeah.
"Fuck you, asshole." No, like you do this shit again, we're gonna be on a wheelchair. So
Yeah.
there's only so many fucking bumps that you could take, right? And especially with what we're learning about CTE and traumatic brain injury and what have you, right? You got to think like there's only so many wars your body can get into, right? And if you
Oh
take
yeah.
a war, I mean, if you're in a war in one of your fights, right? And let's say you get into a car crash after, or some years later, right? You you might have been good for the fight, but now you can recover less in terms of your recovery from the car crash, or let's say you're on the cusp of the UFC or Bellator or those big money fights, those big opportunities, right? And essentially, what ends up happening is you might have gotten into three wars, right? Pro- Earlier in your career that literally took
Yeah.
life off of you, and now you have this big money fight or title opportunity and whatever, and you're not who you once were. That kind of got you to the dance because again, you've already expended yourself to an umpteenth degree getting into those wars.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, and that stuff adds on to later. Like, it really does. And then you add into the weight cut that a lot of these guys are doing. They're cutting 20, 30 pounds or 40, and that long term affects your body. And then you add those wars into it. You're gonna have problems. Like you'll probably feel good afterwards. Probably 2, 3 years later down the line, you're gonna start feeling it. Like, you have an important fight come up, or UFC, Bellator, ONE FC. Somebody calls, give you an opportunity, and like you're feeling great until you start like and closer towards the fight. That those later wars that you had earlier start playing effect to your body, and you start to feel it, not feel so great, and you don't do as good as you should be. So that's why I don't believe in fight in the night or like just fucking going toe to toe with somebody. I'm like, no, that's stupid. I'm going to pick you apart and not get hit. And if I can, like when I see you start to break, I'm going to go in for the finish. But like that's another thing too. Like a lot of guys, they want to go in there. They're not smart with fighting when they're striking. A lot of these guys, they want to prove they're tough. They hit hard. They're like, I don't need to prove I got knockout power. I know I got knockout power. I can go in there if I want, blitz a guy and hurt him really bad and get it over with. But that's a high risk thing. Same time, like if I try to do that, you're gonna be expecting to get damage taken doing so. So I'm like, I don't want damage. I want to be smart. I want to break these guys down. And then when I see them broken, then I go in for the kill. But I don't believe in that. It's just being smart, keeping your brain intact and your body intact so you can go longer and have a longer career instead of a short one.
No, 100%. And that's the thing. If you're a fighter, right, you should want a long, glorious career because you never know, what that could be, right? I mean, again, you know, how many fighters, right, champion fighters, have car dealerships or sell real estate or whatever, right? But those things don't come as easy to people that were just a title contender or a third away from the top, right? So when you think about it, in terms of your long term career, there's even opportunities that lay outside of the ring or the cage if you learn how to conserve yourself.
Yeah, that is a great point right there. Yeah, a lot of guys doing this, man, they're not as fortunate as others outside of fighting, man. That's all they're good at is fighting. So you got to figure out the smartest way for longevity. You don't want a short career. Like all these wars for like these small promotions, that aren't paying you much. I mean, they'll get you a little recognition, but you're not getting the money you want. You're not where you're at, where you want to be at. But it's not worth it. And just like you said, myself too, I feel that on a personal level because I feel like I'm good at a lot of other things, but I'm really great at fighting. That matters. And I just feel like when I have other jobs, like I work, I feel so out of place because I'm not supposed to be there. And I feel like a lot of people feel like that in general, but like I really feel like, like when I'm doing my job, I'm like, oh man, this is not what I should be doing. I'm supposed to be fighting. I'm not that good at this. I'm really great at fighting. I'm good at training. I know it down to the bone. I can do it. I know every area of fighting, but like my job, I'm like, all right, I have weaknesses there, I have weaknesses there, and but like fighting, I feel like I don't have any weaknesses. It's like my only weakness in fighting if I'm not in shape. That's it. But like I feel like if I like I said, if I have a good camp, focus, no distractions, I don't have no weakness. I'm comfortable everywhere.
No, and the proof is in the pudding. So I mean, it's crazy, right? Because you've done it. I mean, aside from like Muay Thai and Lithway, right? Like you've pretty much engaged in, every combat sport that there is in
I've
America.
done Muay Thai, not Lethway.
Oh, you have done.
I
Yes, you
fought for
have.
Lion Fight for my Muay Thai, my first Muay Thai fight, and
Against
it's funny because
Victor
I said,
Sariba, right?
yeah, dude's a
Yeah.
beast, man. Like it's funny because they like talked me, they talked me into doing it. I didn't want to do it at first. I was like, cause I just had my daughters at that time, so I did no training at all. I was heavy too for that fight. I was like 153, and I cut down to 122. I was heavy for that fight, and I didn't train for 3 months because I just had my daughters. All I was doing, I was just working, work, 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 and they came at me with that, and it was like, all right. I was like, you know what? It's a fight. I can use the extra money. I just had kids, so I'm like, yeah, I can use extra money. So I literally did no training. I just cut weight for that fight. That's all. I was cut 30 some pounds in like 2 weeks. That's all it was, and then we went 5 rounds. And I tried getting a fight again. I asked, like, they never hit me back up after that. It was like, hey man, I told them what was happening, and they were aware. Lion Fight was aware of what was happening. And I was like, hey man, I would love to fight, like, cause I thought it was gonna be a lot harder than what it was. Cause I'm like, man, when I was an amateur, I was like, I'll never do Muay Thai professionally. I was like, that's fucking brutal. But I actually went in there, and I was like, man, and I went in there against a beast. Victor Savia, he's no joke. I went the distance with that guy, and I was like, wow, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I was like, I can totally do this if I have a full camp and actually train for it.
No,
So I
and
was like, yeah, I want to do it again. It was fun.
yeah, and Victor is a beast. Actually, the interview that I did with him at a lion fight here in LA is on this very channel. And shout out to him and Muay Thai America, his gym under
Hmm.
David Huey. Those guys are awesome. Those guys and gals
Yeah,
are
they're cool
awesome.
dudes.
Yeah. Now, it's funny because in terms, it's much like bare knuckle, right? Where like for me, that was my first Muay Thai event that I attended live. Been to a litany of MMA, boxing fights or whatever, but like, you know, first Muay Thai and I mean lion fight, right? And Victor was on the card. There was also God, he's out of Sikitong, Boston. God, I'm blanking out. Oh, Chip Surgeon. Um,
Hmm.
and I mean, to tell you how hard they hit. Of course, MMA,
Oh yeah.
hits are hard and everything. But somebody, if you're gonna kick somebody and commit 100% to a kick, you're gonna get taken down, right? But Muay Thai,
Jeez,
especially
man.
that top level lion fight shit, it was like a damn baseball bat, like Babe Ruth hitting a baseball bat against like a wet blanket. It
I
was like thwack, thwack. I mean, it was
I can
unnerving.
tell you, I felt every leg kick that Victor threw. It was, before our fight, man, before me and him fought, there was a fight before us, and the guy got stopped by leg kicks. I was like, fuck that. I was like, I'm not getting stopped by leg kicks. And what's funny was I had a Achilles injury too, and my lead leg, and Victor was just going to town on my leg, and I was like, fuck. I was like, I'm not letting this happen. So like, dude, my leg was fucked up, and I didn't switch because like the guy before me had switched stance, and the guy knew. He's like, oh yeah, that leg's hurt, and he's just far leg kicking that dude, and like just chopped him down. So I was like, that's not gonna happen to me. So I'm like, all right, he's kicking my leg hard, dude, like same spot too, and like my Achilles was already fucked up on my lead leg too, right before the fight. So I was like, all right, I can't switch stance because if I switch, he's gonna go after it and keep kicking it. So what I gotta do is keep a good straight face and just box him. And I was like, I gotta walk him forward. So I did that, and he stopped leg kicking me, and he started going to the body. And I was like, when he landed those body kicks, I was like, oh, thank God, I could take these all day. But like the legs, I wasn't sure how much more I could take of that. So I was like, man, this dude's like fucking going after my leg, and I was like, fuck this. I was trying checking the kicks, but like that hurt more than like just taking them. So I was like, I'm gonna just take it and just walk him down, just box him, and hopefully he stopped, and he did, and he started going to my body. And I was like, yeah, that's better. But I didn't
Yeah,
switch stance. I was like, I'm not gonna switch stance. I'm just gonna take it.
there you go. Fuck yeah. Now, I mean, especially Muay Thai and boxing, in addition to MMA and bare knuckle, right? So Rocky Nelson wants to know, how do you feel about Roy Jones Jr. versus Mike Tyson?
Oh man, it's a hard one to say because Roy Jones is one of my favorite boxers. So is Mike Tyson, but I got like dude like interpret a lot of Roy Jones style into my own style, but I feel like Mike Tyson's gonna take it. He's he's like I feel like he hasn't lost any speed or power. He's still equally fast, explosive, and strong. And Roy Jones looked like he slowed down a little bit, and I feel like he doesn't have the power to hurt Mike Tyson.
Yeah. So here's the thing. When the fight got announced, I was I was like, oh shit, Tyson's back, right? And then
Mm.
I okay, for me, I mean, like growing up with Roy Jones Jr., that motherfucker is like what Mike Tyson did for basketball, Roy Jones Jr. in the mid '90s, early to mid '90s, did for professional boxing. Like, and
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, that was that was the heyday, like especially like post Sugar Ray Leonard, post Marvin Hagler, post Tommy Hearns, like that era of boxing. Like you had him, you had fucking Tito Trinidad from fucking you know uh the Isles, right? What is it? The British. I'm gonna fuck it up. I want to say he's from Cuba. I want to say he was from Cuba, but he could also be from Puerto Rico. I mean, but Tito Trinidad, you had Prince Nazim Hamed over in England, fucking, you know, dancing and shit with the
yeah,
throne. Like, that was some of the, I mean, fuck, Lennox Lewis at heavyweight. Good lord. Holy shit. Right? So that
yeah,
was
man.
like,
Like I said, I grew up watching him, man. Like he was my favorite boxer at the time, and like I said, I used a lot of his style. Like I fought in Florida like 2 years ago. I fought on his show. I didn't know it was his show, and I didn't know he was in the crowd either. Cause my Roy Jones is my favorite boxer. I didn't know he's in the crowd. I didn't know that was his show. I kind of drew up there because Dana White was supposed to be there. I was like, hell yeah, I'll drive to Florida from Kansas City. I was like, they weren't paying for flights. I was like, you gotta drive down. I was like, yeah, if Dana White's gonna be there, it was for Dana White's looking for a fight. It was for his show. I was
ah,
like, yeah, I'll drive down there. So I drove down there, and it was a week notice fight. I was like, hell yeah, Dana White's gonna be there. Fuck yeah, I don't care. I didn't train that much. I was like, but I'm gonna put on a show regardless. So I get down there, man, and like we're fighting, and I'm doing all his shit like he would do in a fight, like the fucking boasting, the hands behind the back, him like I didn't know he was there. I ended up winning the fight, and I was just playing around. I won the fight, and I go to my locker room, and Roy Jones pops up. Like I was looking for you, man. I wanted to come talk to you. Congrat, like he's like, man, you looked a lot like I did when I was younger. Like he's like, you impressed me. I was in shock because I didn't say anything. I was like, no way, this is Roy Jones talking to me right now. I was like, I was like, holy shit. And then like after you walked off, I'm like, man, that was Roy Jones. Just came up to me. My favorite boxer just came up to me, is like just complimenting me on my performance. I was like, man, that's fucking insane. So it was pretty cool. But the Mike Tyson thing, I don't know. Um, I didn't even know that was still going because I've like seen things like saying the fight was off, it was on, it's off. So I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, so well, first off, that damn Roy Jones experience. I don't think there could have be a better fucking meeting. I mean, you could have opened your mouth. You could have asked for a fucking, do it for the gram and shit like that. But I mean, in Florida, doing it for the gram means something completely different. So I digress. Uh, but I mean, even still, that's a fucking huge compliment. And you were doing Roy Jones Jr. and not even you were doing Roy Jones Jr. for Dana White, not knowing Roy Jones Jr. was there.
Yeah,
That is
I
fucking
didn't even know he was
insane.
there.
That's fucking insane. Oh my god, that's hilarious. I mean, I don't think there could have been a better first meeting.
Yeah, it was awesome, man.
So okay, in terms of like the fight, right? So I I mean, Joe Rogan, right? Like that's my kind of go to. If I want to find out about a motherfucker, I go to Joe Rogan because Joe Rogan pulls no punches. He has those motherfuckers on for like 2+ hours, and you're really gonna get who a person is. He's had presidential
Yeah,
candidates. He's had you know conspiracy theorists. He's friends with Alex Jones and Eddie Bravo, both of them, right? So
yeah,
you never know what you're going to get, but you also know what you can get out of Rogan because, again, people pull no punches on Rogan. So Roy Jones Jr. was on Rogan yesterday, right? Yesterday morning, and I wasn't hyped for this fight because I mean I was hyped for Tyson. I was like, fuck yeah, Tyson, hell yeah. Let me get some of that and twice on Sundays. Like fuck yeah, right? And then I was thinking like Mike Tyson's comeback fight. Ah, fuck. Like the last person I wanted to see was fucking Roy Jones Jr. I would see fucking Evander Holyfield. I would see fucking Lennox Lewis get back in his shit. Oh, fucking throw a Klitschko brother in there. Like those motherfuckers, had boring
I
fights
thought it
and
was.
and
To be honest, I thought it was gonna be Shannon Briggs. That was the only person that I
oh,
saw. Yeah, that was the only person that I saw that was like that made sense for that fight, and it would have been
let's go,
entertaining.
champ. Let's go,
Yeah,
champ.
that
But I
that would
mean,
have been like, I think it would have been super entertaining if they chose Shannon Briggs.
yeah, but all the kids now with their sniffing glue, they say this euphemism. You don't want that smoke. And Mike Tyson fucking didn't want that smoke. Like, and that's a crazy thing about like Roy Jones, right, and Shannon Briggs. Shannon Briggs is still fucking competing. Shannon Briggs
Yeah.
ain't never left, right? Same thing with Roy Jones. Roy Jones fucking retired 2 months ago, or pretty much 2 months ago, but two
Yeah, he
years
was
ago.
still active though. He wasn't like not fighting. He was still fighting.
Yeah, yeah.
Not
So
good
I mean,
competition, but he was still fighting.
yeah. And Rocky Nelson said Tito Trinidad is from Puerto Rico. Thank you, Rocky. Um, no, but it's crazy. Like after listening to him on Rogan, I was like, fuck yeah, I am so down for this fight. Like not even because I forgot Roy Jones did fucking win a championship at heavyweight. And I was like,
Hmm.
and he did it at 210, and Mike Tyson, I think in his prime was anywhere from 209 to 220. I was like, fuck, this could work. Like this could work, right? So, and in terms of if it got called off, yeah, I mean, it got called off the first time because of the Rona, right? Because of the Rona the first time. Second time, what ended up happening? Oh yeah, the um, Tyson's camp was like, oh, we need more time, blah blah blah. But it's gonna happen November, so it's happening next month, and it's happening here in California at the I think it's called the Dignity Health Center, but before it was the Home Depot Center or the StubHub Center, all that shit, you know. But I'm hyped because Roy Jones, like looking, Roy Jones sold the damn fight for me. And yes, Tyson was just on Rogan, not but a few weeks ago or a month or two ago, right?
Yeah.
But everybody that's saying it's a exhibition fight, right, with headgear and everything. I grew up with Mike Tyson knocking motherfuckers out on
With headgear on.
ESPN Friday night. Yeah, exactly. So there, I mean, and he fucking got Rafael Cordero, like the
Yeah.
fucking genius behind for Redoom, Anderson Silva, Lyoto Machida. You got fucking Cordero as your fucking coach, your striking coach. Like what in the fuck? And those, that first video, he's started some fucking meat hook fucking clotheslines, meat hook fucking clotheslines. There's fucking rack of ribs, fucking uppercuts and shit like that. Good lord, I'm so hyped for this fight. I don't give a damn,
Dude,
dude. This fight,
I can't wait, man. We're gonna have like a huge party here for a little watch party, man. It's gonna be nice.
yeah,
I can't wait.
yeah. I mean, it's like people are like, oh, it's a $70 fucking price tag and shit like that. You fucking have friends at the house, seven friends, $10 a piece, whatever the fuck, right? Like you get it
Yeah.
done, dude. Like ain't shit else going on, right? Fucking
Yeah, no.
WWE Thunderdome, fucking Abu Dhabi, like whatever the fuck. And that shit don't have no fans. Let's get some
Yeah, it's
fucking
like
boxing.
it's only combat sport right now. I feel like combat sport's the only real sport that's actually doing shit. More stuff. Like just had the NBA Lakers win championship. That's awesome. But I feel like combat sports, like everyone's eyes around the world is on it more than any other sport because they're the first to take on the coronavirus time. Like, all right, we're still gonna do this during the corona times, while every other like organizations was shutting down, but we're still active. We're still competing. So we got the world's eyes more than any other sport right now.
No, 1,000%, 1,000%. And the reigning, defending Alaskan fighting champion, featherweight champion, Tyson Duckworth weighing in with tough pick because Jones has been active in Russia. Tyson has not. And that is, to me, I think that's the ace in the hole. I think that's the ace in the hole. That fucking, uh, like, just because Roy Jones Jr. fucking retired didn't mean he stopped. Like, he's got two fucking, like, he's a dual citizen in Russia and US, right? He's got motherfuckers that he's training in Texas. He's got motherfuckers that he's training in Russia. Like holy fuck, that dude is always active. So that's I don't know. Like I'm excited. I don't
Yeah,
know
I
what the
mean,
fuck is gonna happen.
there's a pro and con to that, because for those of us who are in the fight game, we know how the fight game goes. Like you can be active, especially Roy has, he's earned his keep, man. Like he has his name, but and that's the pro and con right there, his name. They're gonna want to build and profit off that. They're not gonna give him anybody like even if he's being active outside the country and inside the country, he's being active. They're not gonna give him anybody from like that will fuck him up. They don't give him somebody that he can beat because they're gonna want him to keep winning. He's the big name, so it's gonna keep looking good if he's winning. Like, oh, this legend is still winning. So that's I guess it's a pro and con, and like the con part is like they're not fucking Mike Tyson level. Mike Tyson, he hasn't been training, but then he also, I feel like he's in a good spot mentally now and spiritually, physically. He's in a better place, man. That makes for a dangerous person when it comes to fighting. When you like, if you haven't fought and you don't know, like, when you fight a guy who's like balanced, that is a dangerous fucking fighter. But like, you got somebody who's not in the right headspace, it's easier to beat those guys. But I feel like Mike Tyson is in a good place now. He have good people around him. That makes him dangerous. He's in shape. He got in shape fast too, and he's. I feel like he has that fire again. So it's gonna make an interesting fight.
Yeah, man, I'm fucking hyped. I'm so fucking hyped. It's crazy, and I mean that's the other thing too. Like, oh, uh, everybody wants to fucking get on the fucking pay per views of people that used to fight before, has beens or whatever. Here's the fucking thing, and this is one thing that I love that Bellator does. Right? You might have a fucking freak show fight up top, right? But what's the fucking undercard? Some of the best and brightest talent in the fucking sport. So I'm buying this shit. I want to see fucking Kendrick. I want to see fucking Albert Morales. I want to see all the motherfuckers that aren't signed to a major promotion. I want to see y'all motherfuckers on the undercard.
Especially
Cause
my
that's
boy
what,
Albert Morales.
yeah,
I
right.
want
The
to see him.
Warrior,
I want to see him in the UFC again. They need to sign him. He's
yeah,
ready.
right. Well, I mean, right now he that's actually the way that I found out that the fucking COVID sitch was like fucking out of control. I was actually he was rematching Ryan Lilly for the lights out extreme fighting championship, the bantamweight championship, right?
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so got to Commerce Casino, right? Thursday, right? It was supposed to happen Friday the 13th. Thursday the 12th, right? 12th of March. Like I got to the fucking Commerce Casino into the ballroom upstairs, and there's nobody. No ring set up. I mean, this is like fucking 24 hours before the show. No ring set up. Nothing. No chairs. Nothing. I go onto the fucking Lights Out Extreme Fighting fucking IG page. It said, "Oh, fights canceled for the rest of the summer, like until further
Oh
notice." I was like,
fuck.
"What in the fuck?" And you got to remember, like the California scene, I was working. I mean, we were all kind of working with the amateur pro, Muay Thai, MMA, boxing, pro wrestling. We had fights every day, every weekend,
Oh yeah.
sometimes even twice a day. Go to San Bernardino and then fucking catch a show in Anaheim, that night and shit like that. And then it all just went to hell. It hasn't returned, and of course like Top Rank and Golden Boy and what PBC have ran. But again, it's like those are those are fucking promotions that have high dollar fucking TV deals that they can spend $128,000 on a fight with no fans and just write it off as a production cost. Like,
Yeah.
fucking Lights Out can't do that. Even though they've got some of the greatest minds in terms of George Basmaji and Steve Bash, Sean Merriman, Lights Out Merriman of the NFL are all behind Lights Out Extreme Fighting, and still 120 G's is a fucking bit much. So, yeah,
It's a
it's
lot.
crazy.
A lot of
Yeah,
money, man, for no
yeah,
crowd. You know,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
crazy.
So I mean, we kind of talked, right? I mean, obviously the undercard of the Tyson Jones fight. So you got to win in the squared circle, right? This past Saturday. So what's next for you? Have you thought about it? Are you gonna go back to MMA? Are you gonna do Muay Thai? Are you gonna stick in bare knuckle? You're gonna take a boxing fight? What is going on with the Uprising?
My main focus is always MMA. It's just I do so many of these other sports because I can't get nobody wants to fight me at MMA. Not at like 125. I get guys calling me out from 145. I'm like, dude, I'm not about to fight at 145. I was like, you like walk around like 170 or 180. Why would I do that? It makes no sense. 135, like I said, when I'm in training camp, I stay at 135. So why would I do that? Unless it's for the UFC. That's the only time I'll fight at 135 is for the UFC, but I'm not doing that outside the promotion. But yeah, I can't get fights. Nobody want to fight me at 125. I tried playing a bad guy, calling out people, which I don't do. I usually don't do that. So I tried calling guys out. Nothing happened. I had guys say they want to fight, but it doesn't go through. So I end up fucking backing out. And this is like, if I don't do MMA, I'm like, all right, I have to stay busy, stay active, stay in shape, and keep my name relevant in the combat scene because like I can't just not sit out for a year or 2 years waiting for a fight. I'm like, I gotta stay active somehow. Whether it's gonna be boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, or bare knuckles, what as long as I can get a fight and stay busy, keep my name rotating, stay on the UFC's radar, you know. But hopefully I can get back to MMA. Supposedly, my manager he's working on a fight for me for LFA again, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully, I can get on their card later this month because I didn't take any damage. I'm still in shape. I'm ready to go again. So hopefully, I can get on their card in Wichita for the 30th.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good one. And good friend of the show, Rena Norville. She's actually fighting on that card. She happens to be the wife of a Bellator MMA fighter, Shane Crutchton. So that'd be a good. I mean, that's Halloween Eve. Why the fuck
Uh,
not?
yeah, hopefully I can get it. I wanna get back and doing MMA because I wanna do some ninja shit. I felt like kicking somebody in the head Saturday, but I was like, I can't. I want to punch. I gotta keep punching them. But I wanted. It was so many opportunities. I was like, if this was MMA, he would have ate like a head kick or a knee. But I was like, nah, it's just punches for now. But yeah, hopefully everything goes good and I can get an opponent for the 30th and we can get rocking.
Ooh, I feel like I gotta stir the pot a little bit because there's some names that kind of popped in my head. So yeah, I might put a word in or two. But speaking of people that have been able to get into your ear to kind of engage and enhance the uprising, Kendrick Latchman, let's get some shout outs and some acknowledgments of out of the way for people that have helped you along in your journey.
Oh man, people help me. The fans, the writer, podcast, they've been a huge support of me. They've been helping me for a while now, and they're always just showing me a lot of love. HKA, they're always hooking me up with good gear, like good quality gear. Synergy Fight Management Team, that's my team, man. Like fucking outstanding management team, man. They're always on top of everything, always on top of it. So I don't have to worry about too much, man. And like uh, my gym, my coaches, like my close family, friends, man, like they all help me get through everything, man. It's just like I feel blessed with the support I have. So I'm like, it's a good feeling.
I love it. I love it. But for those who haven't already become a fan of yours, especially after Saturday night, I don't know wouldn't want to become a fan of yours. But where is the best place to find you, good sir, on social media?
You can find me on Instagram. I'll be on there a lot. Follow me at the Uprising underscore MMA. I need to be on Twitter more. Apparently, that's the thing. I'm barely on there. Like it's rare if you see me on Twitter, but I'm gonna try to get on there. I feel old, man. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to use Twitter a little bit more. But you can follow me on there at the Uprising. Yeah, follow me on Instagram. I'm on there a lot. Again, it's the Uprising underscore MMA. And yeah, you see me on there. I'm active a lot on there.
There it is. There it is. Fresh off of his win at BKFC, he is the one and only The Uprising, Kendrick Latchman, and I'm Courtney Woods. Thank you guys for joining us. And if you haven't already done so,
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make sure you subscribe to According